Welcome back to Reliving Retro. This is Season 5, Episode 12. This is the season finale. And if you're new here, we pick one game at random, invite a guest on to rate it with us in 5 different categories: story, gameplay, visuals, sound, and how well it aged. And of course, we have the closer back on with us. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, man?
Hey guys, thanks again for having me. I'm Bill from the A Gamer Looks at 40 podcast, and it's cool to be back again. You always know it's the end of the season when I get the text message or the Twitter message, I should say.
Yeah,
invite me back.
Coming back.
Yeah, my pleasure. I love doing it.
Yeah, again, we didn't queue up the Enter Sandman music just because, copyright issues and stuff like that. But we got to get you.
Not worth it.
Your own theme.
Not worth it.
You know what I mean?
Can't afford that.
We'll get somebody to make a really poorly played rendition of it, and then we'll play that as you introduce yourself.
I can probably play it really poorly.
Really?
Maybe on a kazoo version, perhaps might be good.
Oh, that's
I don't
really
know.
good. Yeah, like a kazoo and like a somebody on a recorder, and then somebody on like a ukulele.
Oh. Nice. All the finest instruments in the world
all
combining.
At the same time. And I'll just be smacking a triangle. We get
perfect.
Yeah, we'll figure it out, I'm sure. All right, but guys, you can find us over on Twitter, Instagram, Discord, TikTok, Spotify if you're watching on YouTube if you're listening on Spotify, and please check out our Twitch channel where we stream all the games that we play every single week. You can also check out the Patreon. This is a Patreon episode where for $2 a month you can join the Patreon and you can put your game on that list, and it's a much shorter list than our normal retro master list. So all those links are in the description below, and have fun trying to follow us at all those places because we're just everywhere now. So and Bill, I'm assuming they can find you at all the same places pretty much.
It's all the same stuff. If every podcast asks you the same stuff. Yes, Twitter is the main place where I hang my hat, but since that site is now evidently crumbling, every month Twitter is crumbling for some reason. People are claiming it's dying.
Yeah, it gets worse.
I guess. I don't know. I can't handle another social media platform. So I'm there until the wheels fall off. So Twitter is where I mainly go, but I have a Facebook, Instagram. I do occasionally do a TikTok. Your TikToks are fun, actually. I watch a good amount of your TikToks. You guys have a good time with that platform. So
appreciate it. Yeah, we throw out a bunch of stuff on there.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, so let's ask some getting to know you questions. Obviously, you've been on the show quite a bit of times now, but for the new people, what was your introduction to gaming?
So my introduction to gaming, first blush with it was probably my uncle's Intellivision. It was old. It was cool though. He had about like 30 or so games. Fun fact on that Intellivision, I was probably 25, I want to say, and he was about to get rid of it in the garage sale for like $10. System, controllers, games, the whole thing for like $10. And I went there to help him like pull stuff out of his garage for the garage sale. And I saw it. I'm like, don't get rid of that. And this was again like 15 years ago when no one was really collecting this stuff yet. And I'm like, I have a friend, my best friend Joey, who collects this stuff. And even in that era, he's collected it. I'm like, let me give it to him. And so I gave him like $15 for it. And Joey still has it and it still works.
Nice.
Games still work. Can't kill that thing. But first blush was probably in television. First system I owned was the NES. And first games I owned were Rad Racer and Black Box Baseball. I never owned the Super Mario Brothers / Duck Hunt. I never owned a Zapper. And I've never beaten the original Super Mario Brothers all the way through. Every year.
You got
every year. I haven't done it this year yet. I might have to do this. I go on Twitch and I try to beat it all the way through each level, no warp zones. I'll use the continues like this. I know. Last time I did it, I got to like 8-1 or 2. It was the one where the Hammer Brothers lead up.
It's on the Switch, right?
Yeah. That's what I do.
Yeah. That's the only reason why I beat it.
Yeah, use rewind.
That's the thing. I won't let myself use rewind. I won't do it. I have to do it as if I were a dumb 7-year-old. So
okay.
I've yet to do it. But one of these days I will succeed on Twitch. It'll be a glorious day.
All right. Well, moving into this gen, what games have you been playing lately?
Yeah, I have been immersed into Final Fantasy because that's the next series I'm doing for my show. So
cool.
I'm almost done with Final Fantasy 4. I've played 1, 2, and 3 on the remaster. And it's interesting playing those games in order because you can really see, or at least I can really see, what 4 took from each one of those games to make a great game. Like
Nice.
4 is the amalgamation of all those games, but really good. And each one of them has its charms. I don't think 2 is 3 is not terrible, but 2 I don't think it's that terrible either. It's just interesting. They do make different decisions, and then 4 I feel like they took all the good parts of each one and made it into a stone cold banger. And 4 is fantastic. It's fantastic. I forgot how good it is.
1,
Yeah,
2,
so
and
that's
3
probably
are
where
all
I've been.
For the NES, right?
Say again?
1, 2, and 3 were all for the NES, right?
Yes, correct.
4 is when it made that switch to Super Nintendo, and then 4, 5, and 6 are for Super Nintendo.
Yep, correct.
And 7, 8, and 9 are PS1.
Yep. And then 10 was PS2. Yeah. And it was interesting about the about 4. It was a launch title or close to a launch title for the SNES. That was like 91.
Oh, wow.
That was like super early SNES. And then Final Fantasy 6 was 95, I want to say 94, 95. So late. So they took those 4 years and really kind of mastered the craft. And even though people like 5 and I haven't played it yet, so I'll have a better idea. But Final Fantasy 6 is my favorite. For nostalgic reasons, and I think just mechanically as well. As far as the game goes, I won't have to replay that for the series. I've played that at least a dozen times, all the way to completion. Leveled out characters. Dude. Oh yeah, I know my way around Final Fantasy 6 pretty well. I don't think I need to redo it for this, but I'll go through it a little bit for the remaster just to see the differences.
Yeah, nice. That's when I haven't, at least. Yeah, so you haven't played either Final Fantasy 4 or 6 yet, right?
6 is R3, right?
Correct.
I played the beginning a dozen times in the mech suits, the mech suit thing.
Yeah.
But I haven't got any further than that. That was a long time ago too.
Square always really surprised me how they were just kind of churning out RPGs in the 90s.
Yeah.
What, 7 came out in 96, 97?
That sounds about right. Yeah.
And then,
one of the first
8,
PlayStation games. Yeah.
Yeah, and then 8 came out the very next year, I think, and 9 came out the very next year. It's crazy that
they were cranking them.
Yeah, it's amazing, especially considering that some people have a favorite out of those 3. That a lot of people obviously like 7, but I hear just as many people like number 9, and then I think 8 has some people that.
I'm a 9 boy.
Yeah.
Okay. I never played 8 or 9 because I never had a PlayStation growing up.
Oh shit.
I never played it. So I actually started 8 and then I realized I got to start from the beginning and do the first one. So I bought it's like another remaster on Steam for 8. I don't know if it's good or not. And I'll play 9 as well. So I'm going to play 8 and 9, and 10 I've played through a dozen times, and 10's great. X2 I've played through a number of times. I like X2 a lot. Yeah. I like X2 a lot. I think mechanically it's great. I think the battle system's fun. The story is fine. It's kind of reverses a lot of the stuff that happens in X, or X rather, in 10.
Yeah, kind of.
I never played 11 because that was online. That was never really an online player.
You're gonna have to go find a private server and go back and play 11.
Something, I don't know. What I'm probably gonna do is lean on people for that one. I don't think I'm gonna be able to get the private server.
Yeah.
I ain't got the time for it. 12, I played maybe a third of 12 and I didn't like it. On the PS2, I jumped off, and then I have the remastered one for PS4, I think it is, or whatever it is. 13 I played, I thought it was fine. 13.2 I bounced off of, never played 13.3. And then 14, I was deep into 14 for about 6 months.
Oh.
Deep into 14. And then I jumped out because I'm like, I have a job. I can't spend 4 hours a day doing this. This is ridiculous.
MMOs are crazy, huh?
Yeah, it's crazy, but boy, oh boy, I had a good time with 14. 14 is great.
That's cool.
So are you covering all the way up to 16?
Yep.
Nice. And are you doing
all the way up, man?
Are you doing all the side stuff too, like the Mystic Quest or the Game Boy what is it, Final Fantasy Legend? I think it is.
Yeah, I think I'll probably do the lighter ones. I might do Mystic Quest. I think it's interesting. I've never played it, but I think it's a shorter one too.
I think
it's super
10
short
hours or something like that.
Yeah, I can blow through it. I might hit some of the other ones what's it, Dirge of Cerberus maybe, because I know people. That's an interesting one. Yep. But I'm not gonna go through all the crazy side ones. I just don't have the time. So
yeah.
I mean, it's a lot to go through. That's why I was curious.
And these are all 50-hour minimum games. So
all the tactics and Crystal Chronicles, all those.
Nah, we're not. I will rely on people's expertise for those. They'll probably what'll end because as you know with the show, and for those who don't know, the show is essentially a collection of conversations around a certain game, topic, or system. And so you could have up to 10, 11 people on any given episode with different opinions and stories. It's kind of like a storytelling show. And for those situations, where it really depends on the material I get. If I get a lot of guests who really love Mystic Quest or have opinions on it, then I can do an episode. Or if I get a lot of guests who love the Game Boy ones or pieces of the Game Boy ones, I can maybe do a Game Boy episode. Or I don't know. I won't really know until I collect the interviews and do that work. And then once I have all the stuff, I'll know what I need and what I can use. So
yeah,
it really depends on material. Yeah. So I really don't know until I get there.
What about you, Yaiser? What have you been playing lately? Anything other than Mega Man X5?
Ooh, dude, honestly, no. But I'm pretty sure we spent about $40 in the arcade recently playing Minecraft Dungeons.
Really?
So I'm probably gonna buy that for Switch so we can play the play the whole thing for $20 instead of playing 4 minutes at $1 a rip.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, because it was fun, dude, playing in the arcade, but like playing with 3 people and you gotta pay $2 more every time you die, it kind of fucking sucks. But
it adds up. But you wouldn't get the cards though.
We got
on the Switch. You don't get the cards. I'm sure you do. My kid with the cards. There's another one now.
God.
I don't even know what game you guys are talking about. It's fun.
Oh, dude, yeah, man. It's like a dungeon crawl. It's like Minecraft meets Diablo with multiplayer.
That's it. That's
cool.
basically it.
It's pretty awesome.
It's neat.
It was a lot of fun.
I gotta check it out.
Very expensive in the arcade.
It's like at Dave and Buster's or something.
Yeah, that's where we played it. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
but you can get it for your Switch and play the whole entire game for $20 if you want to.
Okay, so probably lean that route then.
Yeah. I would do
think
that.
so. I think that would be a wise idea.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. Well, this week we played Mega Man X5. Bill, how familiar are you with like Mega Man X5 or Mega Man like the series in general?
Yeah, I know the X series pretty well, and I know the mainline series. Other than those two, I don't know Legends. I don't know Tactics. I don't. There's so many Mega Man properties. Battle Network.
Yeah, I was gonna say Battle
those
Network,
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know those, but I definitely know the X series pretty well. For games my mom found, I started playing through the X series for that show, and X5 was the most recent one I played, but I couldn't get on that episode because schedule got messed up. But I played X5 for that show. So when y'all suggested X5 was on your list, I was like, perfect. I just played that like 5 months ago. This is great. Excellent.
Cool.
Mega Man X is my favorite game of all time. It's number 1 on my list.
Awesome.
It relatively recently supplanted Super Metroid. That was always my number 1, easy go-to number 1. But
awesome.
I don't know, Mega Man X just plays so beautifully. It's just this beautifully balanced, like a Thanos balance right there. It's just so beautifully balanced in every aspect. It's great. And as you move forward through the X series, X 1 through 4 are good to great. I know a lot of people like X4 a lot. I think you can make a very strong argument that X4 is actually better than X1. I can't say that because it would hurt my heart. It's just I can't do that. X4 is fantastic. 2 is really good. 3 is fine, not bad. And 5 is, of the 5 I've played, is definitely the weakest for sure.
Okay,
it's definitely the weakest of the 5. And from what I understand, 6 is just a disaster.
Oh,
but
no.
That's what they say, and that's coming up soon. For I don't want to spoil games my mom found fans, but X6 will be coming up at some point, so I'll have to go through that for that show.
Cool, very cool.
But yeah,
what about you guys? Are any familiarity with Mega Man?
I think the original Mega Man X I played a little bit of way back, like a little kid that I barely really remember.
Yeah.
I just remember seeing there was like 9. There was like a cube, right, of 9 bosses.
Yep.
I remember seeing that and trying to play, but I mean that's about it. That's about all I remember.
Yeah, and as far as I go, this was really my first Mega Man experience. I played like as a collector, right? I would get Mega Man games and stuff like that, and I would just like pop them in here and there. And I've always heard great things about Mega Man 2, so I'd pop it in, play it for like 10, 15 minutes or whatever, and kind of just been like, okay, it's Mega Man, whatever, you know what I mean? And the thing that's always kept me off of Mega Man is the fact it's a little intimidating, the fact that like you have to kind of know which order to fight the bosses in, for like, I guess like an optimal like experience, or just like the easiest route, whatever. And without looking it up and without knowing, I've always been like, okay, I'll try this guy or whatever, and then I'm like, oh, but is this the right guy? Like, shouldn't I find a different weapon to fight this boss with or whatever? So I never really got into him, unfortunately. I will say I have a lot of mixed feelings on this game. I think overall it's positive, but we'll get into it. I did not beat the game this week. I played it for about 3.5 hours or so. What about you, Bill? Did you beat it?
Not on this run through. I got through. I think I got to the last. Yeah, I got through the final. I got through all 8 of the masters, and that's when I kind of jumped out. That's when I kind of ran out of time. So I got through the 8 masters until then all the Zero stuff happens. But we'll talk about it. But yeah, it's that's about as far as I got.
What about you, Yaiser?
I probably played 3, maybe almost even 4 hours, but I think I only killed fucking 4 bosses. This game is a lot harder than I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah,
I think I killed less than you. All right, let's kick it off here with the story. And we'll have somebody a little bit more familiar with the series take the lead here on the story. Bill, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'll start you off. I gave the story a 3.5. So reason being, first off, fellas, let me just state this for the record. This is not the Mega Man game to start with. This is jumping in X5 is a poor idea because there's no way you knew what was going on.
It must have been zero clue.
No idea.
Because there's got to be people out there who like Mega Man lore. No one really should be here for the story. There's the whole Zero story. I don't even really care about Mega Man story, to be perfectly honest. I always have to reread the plots whenever I do the synopsises, but
yeah.
The story in Mega Man X5. So here's like the overarching issue with X5 is that the more they tacked on to X, they kept putting things on it. It got bulkier and bulkier. It got more and more unwieldy. And you lost that beautiful Thanos balance that X had. So on X4, they tack on like anime cutscenes and all sorts of stuff, but it's good. Like the balance is almost there. Like they tacked it on, was balanced enough. And X5, they just tip it over where it's not as fun. The story it's straightforward, but who cares? It's a very who cares story. In this game, a lot of the mechanic is you have to first stop a colony from hitting Earth after the Sigma virus attacks and takes over all the Reploids. That adds a timer to it, which is weird. So the story combining with gameplay, I don't love that idea because story should really be out of the way of an X game. You should be optional, really. Just give me robots to shoot and things to fire at. I don't really care what happens here. They try. The reason I give it a 3.5 though is they really make an effort to really build out the lore. And this game was intended to be the last X game. This was supposed to be it.
Oh.
Yeah, and then they did
X6.
X6.
Make it up to X7?
8.
X8? Okay.
Oh shit.
S7 and 8. Yeah. I don't know much about 7 and 8. I know 6 is supposedly terrible. It was released, I think, a year after this, and it's just remember all the text boxes that come up when the robot telling you what to do every 5 minutes? That's like every 2 minutes.
Oh, dude.
It's every 2 minutes in 6. Yeah, 6 is rough.
Can I please forget about those text boxes?
And that's all the story. That's all. And that Mega Man X doesn't have any of that. It's just you play the game and there's a light story, but there's nothing.
Yeah.
You just play the game because it's fun. But so for this, I gave it a 3.5 because they try, but I don't think the stuff they end up with is very interesting. Especially if you've never played the first 4. You don't know Zero, you don't know Sigma, you don't know the Sigma virus. You don't.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys got. I'm curious what you guys thought. The story that you had no context to.
I guess I'll jump in here. So I had no idea what was going on, obviously. I don't know who Zero is. I barely know who Mega Man X is. I'm like, that's like Mega Man, right? Is it the same guy? I don't know.
It's X. It's Mega Man X. It's different.
There's
Yeah.
more.
Sorta.
Maybe there's
Didn't
more
even-
than one. I don't know.
Didn't even know. So I see Sigma come in, and I'm like, okay, it looks like he's the bad guy, right? And then they talk about a Sigma virus, and I'm like, he must have created that. That's how naming works, I think. I don't know. I landed on a 2.5 because I was just lost.
No
Although
way.
I do agree that the story did seem pretty straightforward. Just like, that's bad guy, you go kill that bad guy. I actually thought the timer was an interesting mechanic that they added to the game, and I think while it didn't seem like you needed to rush through the game at all, obviously, but every single time I believe you entered a level, it took away an hour whether you beat it or not. So I thought that was
Yes.
kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Because this game is creeping into gameplay a little bit here. This game is fairly forgiving, although it's very, very hard. It's forgiving in terms of like the continues and game overs and stuff like that. The part where I guess like it's like, okay, it's not that forgiving is the fact that you can only leave a level and fail so many times before your timer runs out.
Yeah.
So
Right.
there is a little bit of a balance there, which I thought was pretty good. But again, back to story, I had no idea what the hell was going on. So I kind of just gave it a 2.5 and
Love
was
that.
like, I'm sure to
Fine.
Mega Man X fans, whatever's happening here probably makes sense, but I kind of just got thrown into the middle of a series and was like, you know what's happening, right? I'm like, not
Yeah,
a
right.
clue, buddy, not a clue. And if you're considering, what was the robot's name that kept talking to you? Like Arlia or something like that?
Yeah, I get it.
Alia?
I'm just hitting the button super fast to get through the dialogue.
I know.
I have no
This-
interest. I really don't. It's terrible.
This is another aspect of the game that I think kind of mixes, like you were saying, mixes story and gameplay. But all the text boxes that came up, my God. It's like sometimes it would tell me stuff that was just like super obvious. It's like, oh, you have to destroy that door to get through to the next part. And I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
I figured that.
Could have figured that out. Yeah.
But then there's the
Yeah.
one level where you start off on a motorcycle and she gives you no help. Like she
Nothing.
doesn't prep you for that at all. It's just like ready and the screen's already moving and you die. And I'm like, I guess
Immediately.
not. Wasn't ready
That's
at all.
Volt Kraken. That's Volt Kraken, and that heinous scooter level. It's the worst. And what's luckily, like you said, though, again, we're kind of going to gameplay a bit, but luckily the continues are super forgiving because not only does it obviously restart you in the level, it restarts you at your last checkpoint.
Your checkpoint. Yeah.
No other game in the series does that, as far as I know. Like Mega Man X doesn't do that. You run out of lives, you start over from the beginning of the level. But there's not this artificial timer either. So once you get through that, you don't have to do it again. Did you guys get the 8 crystals required to break down the door at the end of? I did.
No,
you get a
no.
really cool piece. Yeah, you get a piece of the Falcon armor that you need to. You get a piece of the armor. So
That's cool. So
I was able to do it. It took me forever though.
So
I'm so mad at it.
so before we get into gameplay, because I have a lot to say about
sorry.
gameplay. Yaiser, where are you at for the story?
So I gave it. I also was very confused, very very confused by all of it. But I gave it the benefit of the doubt because I feel like if I were interested in it and wanted to read all the shit, like it's like there was
was a
so
lot.
much they were throwing at you. Like
Yeah.
it's probably pretty good, but like the text bubbles were just exhausting to the point where I, like you guys were saying, just fucking get rid of these shits. I just want to fucking try to play this game and just die a bunch more times. Please just let me do that, right? But I did give it the benefit of that because I feel like I didn't even look up. Usually I do like look up the synopsis of the story, but
Yeah.
I didn't. I gave it the benefit of the doubt because they threw so much at me. It has to be a pretty decent story, right? But
I looked it up and it didn't say much. It just said its story is set in the 22nd century in a world where humans coexist with androids called Reploids. X and Zero once again face their nemesis Sigma, who aims to destroy the planet and infect all Reploids with a virus.
That's all it said.
That's it. There it is.
Yeah.
But there's lots of other stuff with Zero and Zero. There's like mythical character who at the end dies at the end. Spoiler alert, I guess, for those who haven't played
what the-
X5.
Come on, man.
Oh, it's okay. He comes back in 6. It's fine.
Oh,
You can't have a Mega Man game without Zero. It's fine.
All right. Good.
Again, it was intended to be the last Mega Man X game. so they kind of like tie it off. It's actually a very depressing ending.
Oh,
There's a
no.
number of I think there's 4 endings you can get in this.
From when I looked up,
depending on
it said
how works
3. Yeah, 3
3?
different
Okay.
endings or whatever.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a positive, but again, I was so confused by everything else that I just had no idea what was going on. Sorry, Yaiser, I don't know if we got a score from you. What was that?
I gave it a 3.
Oh, 3. Okay, cool. All right, so I mean, we're all right there ish.
Yeah.
The average out to about 3. Yeah.
I do think it's fairly confusing for somebody who's never jumped into the Mega Man series, such as myself. But I bet if you've been playing Mega Man X, you know these characters, so it's probably not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
There was no character introduction really.
No, well, actually, to be fair, the characters in this game, like I'm looking at this, Aaliyah, Douglas, and Cygnus, they're not. This is the first time you see them.
Oh,
they're not outstanding characters. These are all. I'm not sure if Aaliyah's in 4 or 3, but I know the other 2 aren't, and they're not even like voice protagonists. Like they're just there. Sigma is there from the beginning. He's the main big bad through the entire X series.
Yeah.
But those other 2 Jokers or 3 Jokers, I don't know. Like
So-
maybe, yeah.
So most of these bad guys, now I think this is a good spot to bridge from story to gameplay. Now most of these bosses, at least I think it was like the 4 on the left, they're all named after Guns N' Roses guys, right? We can agree on that?
Yes, actually, yes. I think it's all of them are something to do with Guns N' Roses, I think.
Oh,
But
all
it
8
depends
of
on
them?
where you play it. So if you play it, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just gonna say we have Grizzly Slash,
Mhm.
Duff McWhalen,
Yep.
and then we have Squid Adler and Izzy Glow, and then we have
Mhm.
Axel the Red.
Right.
So I mean that would be
I-
all the Guns N' Roses guys, right?
That's
that would
fine.
be, yeah. Yep, that's right.
Or is there
That's
only
basically
4
it.
Guns N' Roses guys.
Now, if you play this on I play it on the Mega Man X2 Legacy Collection, which is on the Switch. So I play it on and on that
Oh.
version. They changed those to the Japanese names. Those names were only for the North American release.
Right, so that would be like Crescent Grizzly, Tidal Whale,
Yeah.
Volt Kraken, Shining
Right, Volt
Firefly,
Kraken.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when I refer to them, I'll refer to them as that. But yes, you're right. For the North American release, they did Guns N' Roses names because one of the designer's girlfriends, or I think it was somebody who worked on the game, and I probably look at this, but their husband was a really big Guns N' Roses fan. So she suggested, hey, for North America, we should just name them all after, Guns N' Roses. And somebody at Capcom said, sure, that sounds fantastic.
It's funny to me just because, like, when did this game come out? 90s?
This was
95 or
in
something?
actually 2000.
2000.
What?
That's real late to be like on the Guns N' Roses bandwagon, I think.
Yeah, this was 2000. Yeah, because this is a PS1 game. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So yeah,
wild.
2000.
It's a little weird. It's a little weird for the whole Guns N' Roses thing. I mean, I always think stuff like that is kind of cool when they throw that into video games. I'm not a huge Guns N' Roses guy. I mean, I think they're one of the more like overrated rock bands of all time, but that's just me. I don't know. I don't
not
like
to-
Axl
not-
Rose, but
Not to get into a GNR conversation, but I saw Guns N' Roses play at the Austin City Limits Festival. I want to say 2019,
Yep.
2018 or 2019. They were terrible.
Yeah, I can
terrible.
this is even
He-
like post Chinese democracy, right?
Yeah, this is post Chinese democracy. He was up there, welcome to the jungle. Like he couldn't get through it. Like he was breathing heavy. And I was like,
man.
oh, this is not. Very quick side note: if you want to see a nostalgia band, The Cure, they still got it. Robert
Cool.
Smith still's got it. He
Cool.
looks like he's death warmed
Nice.
over. They wheel him up to that microphone. As soon as he starts singing, it's like the record. It's fantastic. So Cure is great. GNR don't just don't.
They should have
That's
named the guys after the Cure. I think that's what we're saying.
That's what
Okay,
we're
I
getting
guess
at.
that's where we're at. That's where we're at right
Yep.
now.
Yep.
Yeah, so I just had to like kind of quick side note with that because I thought that was really funny, and I don't know if that necessarily goes with the story or not, but it's a part of gameplay for sure. But let's kick off gameplay here. Yaiser, you want to start it off?
Yeah, this is kind of hard to judge for me here because
I got that too.
the controls felt fucking great, right?
I thought
This-
so.
This game was so goddamn hard though. It was so hard. It was I don't know why, but it was so fucking hard. Found myself so frustrated at times. If it weren't for me playing on emulator and saving states, I wouldn't even have killed the 4 bosses that I did kill. I mean, maybe though, because you just like restart and I would have ran out of time or whatever. Like whatever they give you is 16 hours at the beginning, right? I would have definitely ran out of time even before I killed the 4 bosses that I did. But for some reason, I kept wanting to try. You know what I mean?
See, you didn't get that feeling when we played Contra 3, but I did. Contra 3 was the game where I was frustrated, but it kept making me want to play. This game made me want to put my fist through my monitor.
See, I'll tell you the difference. Contra 3, I couldn't make it to the bosses before. I just died a million times. I was just dying to random stupid shit.
Okay, I see.
In this game, I would at least make it to the boss, and I would just die and die and die and die.
Yeah.
Like worse than any FromSoft game I've ever played. I'm throwing it out there.
It's funny you said that actually, because during my live stream, somebody had commented and said, well, after this, you're certainly ready for the Dark Souls games. And I'm like, I don't even want to think about that right now.
This is harder, dude. Mega Man X5 is harder than Dark Souls. I'm telling you.
Really? I'm not a Dark Souls person, so I don't.
I'm telling you, it is.
I
do.
Yeah.
Maybe because I played Dark Souls 100,000 times. Maybe
it's easy for you now.
It's not that hard anymore.
Yeah,
it's fair.
But dude, I don't know. It would my fucking thumb still hurts from like mashing buttons earlier today.
Well, that's just to get through the chat boxes.
Oh yeah, that too. But no, going from like jump to like sprint through the air to attack, and because I didn't play as X at all.
You only played as 0.
Okay.
I played as 0 because I wanted a sword. Of course, I fucking want a sword. You kidding me?
It's a lot harder with 0. I'll be honest with you. It's a lot harder with 0.
Okay,
it's much easier if you play Mega Man.
It felt pretty hard, but also I don't know. I don't know if it was fun or not. I don't have a score written down. I'm debating it right now.
Do you want us to come back to you? You want us to convince you?
I'm gonna give it because it was fun, but it was frustrating as hell. I'm gonna give it a 3.5.
Okay.
Because of how
frustrating
fluid the controls felt.
Okay.
But I'm taking it down a little bit because of how goddamn frustrating it was.
Okay. What about you, Bill?
So I have gameplay at 3.5 as well. But I have a different perspective because I know what the other games are. And this is definitely a step back in terms of control. Like if you thought this controlled well, play X. X is like butter. It's amazing. And what's beautiful about X as opposed to 5, the sprites felt, at least to me, a lot larger because it's a PS1, so you can make more detail. But when you make the sprites larger, everything else feels more cramped and compressed. So I felt like I had less room to maneuver, whereas when I play Mega Man X, I have a lot more room. I have a lot more opportunities for expressive play. There's also a lot more verticality in X than X5, if I remember correctly. So reason I give it 3.5, it does play great, but it's a lot of, again, it's not quite what it was for X. And as far as all the new mechanics they bolt on, it's, again, at Mega Man X, there's none of that stuff. There's no levels for your bosses. There is an upgraded armor you can get. You can upgrade armor pieces. In this game, in order to use any of the upgraded armor, you need the entire set. So you got to find all 4 pieces of the Falcon armor to use it, which is ridiculous because some of those are hidden by ridiculous things that you can't get first time around. You got to go back. You're wasting hours.
I felt like there
really
was
frustrating.
There was a few spots that I could see but couldn't get to.
Yeah, Mega Man's big on that. Mega Man X especially, you have to backtrack. X is the same way. You just need to backtrack. There's certain things you'll see, but you can't get yet because you don't have the weapon or the enhancement or whatever it is. So that's just kind of part of the Mega Man thing. But in X5, it's just very frustrating to get like, oh, here's a new cool helmet. Can I use the helmet? No, you can't. Sorry. You gotta get the whole set. Like in Mega Man X, you can just use it. You get it, you use it, it's there. You don't have to equip anything. You don't have to swap things in and out. There's no weird upgrades. There's no random new upgrade because the boss you fought was a higher level because you did better on the previous ones. So it's like an adaptive difficulty. it's so much stuff tacked onto the X formula in this game that it's
I didn't
just
notice any of that was even happening.
yeah. And that was, again, if you play the original X, you understand this, you'll understand the streamlined. That's the Ferrari. This is like a Ferrari that they put, I don't know, mud tires on for some dumb reason. I don't know why, but they did.
I've seen it.
So yeah, so it's definitely a step down in gameplay, and it's still Mega Man. It's still fun, and I highly recommend playing as Mega Man. It's much easier. Zero's like hard mode, so that's not surprising, Yaiser, that you had a hard time, because I can't get through 2 levels with Zero. It's you just have no range. You're constantly getting hit by stuff.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it was tough.
yeah, I know the swords are cool. I know swords are awesome.
I
But
know.
not in this game. Don't do it. So that's where I landed with 3.5. Just lots of other issues, I think, but at the end, it's still a Mega Man game. That's still fun if you like that formula. So
Yeah. Well, so I landed a little bit lower than you guys. Not a lot lower. I landed at a 3.25. And some of my biggest complaints about this game were just the fact that I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing, like, ever really. Like, I mean, I just assumed, okay, it's a side-scrolling action game, right? I walk right, kill everything in front of me. Like, that should be pretty simple. That should be it.
right.
But I'm playing the game, and I have people like in the chat being like, "Oh, you're just being regular Mega Man X. Like, you're not using like the fourth armor or whatever." And I'm like, "What's the fourth armor? What is that? How do I choose that? Why didn't they just start me off with the good stuff? Why is it like base Mega Man?" I'm very confused. So I beat like the first 2 bosses with like just regular Mega Man X, like without the other, like the additional armor or whatever. And I'm like, oh, now I can like do hover stuff. That's cool. I wanted to do that the whole time. Yeah. So I don't know. The gameplay felt good. Like, what I was doing felt fine. The actual level moving up to the boss, I felt like was good. I mean, there wasn't much to it. Most of those were pretty easy to kind of just get through. And honestly, once you realize that continues are just so plentiful and lives mean absolutely nothing, I just started running through those, because whatever, I get through it and all my health is gone, right? But then I die once to the boss, and then I'm just right back to where I was. So that, I felt like, kind of actually knocked gameplay down for me, because it was really just like, you might as well just transport me to the boss then, because like anything that I do before the boss doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I can just sprint through this entire level, get to the boss, and then that's when the actual game begins. But to be fair, that's when I had the most fun. It's also when I was the most frustrated during the boss fights, but it's also the most fun. The boss fights were pretty fun. The few that I did play, these old school, like, 2D boss fights are some of like the more fun moments I can remember in gaming. So I think that they did them fairly well. I do think that I think it's a squid one, maybe, is very, very annoying, where he's just constantly on you, like stage 5 clinger kind of stuff. And I couldn't get him off of me, driving me nuts. That one was pretty annoying. The grizzly bear one was, I think, like the easiest one that I can remember. And then of course there was that level where they just throw you in to that motorcycle thing, and you're just off and running without any type of warning whatsoever.
It's the worst. I was so frustrated.
I only tried it probably 5 times. I'm like, I'm not gonna just fucking keep doing this. Like, I'm not doing it.
I was determined at that point, because the chat was like, good luck with this one, and I'm like, oh, is this one tough? And then immediately just into the like off the cliff, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool.
You don't even know what
felt like Battletoads. Yeah, it felt like the Battletoads level, like the tunnel or whatever in Battletoads. I don't know. I felt like I had to beat it, and I did. I was happy that I got through that part. But again, with continues and stuff, it didn't really matter.
Sure.
So you could just endless like attempts at it.
Yeah, and sometimes because we're still talking about gameplay, you're 100% right. Having those continues be so forgiving, because the other games don't do that. Like I said, like there's a password system for the other games because they're SNES, and then of course the PlayStation 1 didn't have a password. But I don't believe X4 is like that, where it doesn't matter how many times you die, because if you lose all your lives, you have to start from the beginning. So imagine if you finally got through that stupid speeder level, you die on the boss, you have no lives, you gotta go all the way back and start over from that stupid speeder, right?
Yeah.
Like, Yeah, exactly. Yeah, basically,
I wouldn't.
right?
Yeah, I wouldn't.
And
start
you're
over.
talking about not knowing about the fourth armor. I didn't know either when I played it for the first time either. I played as X, and then I'm like, wait, there's another armor. If
Mhm.
you start as a Mega Man, you get the fourth armor. If you start as X and then switch to Mega Man, which evidently you can do, I don't even know how to do it, but you can do that. You don't get that bonus armor. And the fourth armor is like more of an easy mode where, yeah, you can hover. You have a couple more abilities, a better charge shot.
Yeah.
Vanilla Mega Man X. It's just, and what I always say about this when I don't know what I'm doing, I go, well, was it in the manual? Well, while you were talking, I checked the manual. Not there. Manual does not tell you what those power-ups do, doesn't tell you how to find that force armor, doesn't tell you where to, and the screens are esoteric, they make no sense. It's like, what is this menu screen? And you don't know what it's for until you start getting power-ups, because you can start like tacking on,
Yeah.
oh, this is a half damage boost, or there's buffs you can add, which is, again, I think X5 is where they start that. I don't think that's in X4. But
Yeah, a lot of that stuff was super cryptic, and I found it to
Yeah.
be incredibly frustrating. It felt like I was playing like Dungeons and Dragons with a bunch of people that have been playing
Never
it forever,
played it before.
but I've never played it before, and they're just like,
Right.
oh, well, you should have been doing this the whole time. And I'm like, I've never played this before.
Please, someone onboard me.
Yeah,
Why doesn't the robot person actually tell you how these things work, as opposed to just give you nothing but
No.
drivel, just nonsense?
No.
Run right, shoot the door. Oh, really?
Yeah.
How about, where do I find my fourth armor? What do I do with this thing you gave me?
Yeah, she's like, watch out, there's going to be some lava coming from underneath you. You should wait till that passes to continue forward. I'm like, yup, thanks.
Yes. I'm
Glad I
aware of
read
this
that.
thing called video games that I'm now engaged in. I know. I've played these things before. Seriously.
Yeah, really glad I read that. All right, that's enough for gameplay. I will say it was fun, but there's so many things about it that just left it kind of underwhelming. I would say. All right, let's move over to visuals, and I guess I'll take it from here for visuals. I thought the graphics looked great. One of those things where it's very rare, I think, to see like sprites used in this era of gaming, right, where everything was like 3D and stuff like that. So when they use like just normal sprites, it tends to just look so much better. It just looks like a super Nintendo game, if I may. And I gave visuals a 4.25 here. I wanted to go to 4.5 or even 4.75, but I didn't do that because some of the 3D rendered stuff in the background kind of looked a little cheesy. Didn't look like it aged that great. But as far as like the sprites go, I thought everything looked really good. A lot of the effects, like when things blew up, I thought looked really, really nice. Yeah, I thought visuals overall, I was really impressed. What about you, Yaiser?
Yeah, same. I had it at a 4 though. I feel like it could have been a little more colorful. Does that make sense?
I guess, yeah.
All the colors seemed a little gray. I don't know. Maybe that was just on my phone.
I mean,
like
I do think I do think like it just seemed like, I don't know, industrial, like the whole like all the backgrounds or whatever.
Right, but like, and like you said, I love when we played Suikoden. I love when this next generation stuck with the 2D and just like improved on it. It literally is like super Nintendo. Like,
yeah, it looks so much better.
I knew exactly what you meant when you said that. Like, that's the perfect way to put it. I love it, but I feel like it could have been a little better. I feel like Suikoden did a better job with it.
Yeah, I think Suikoden's looked better too. But for what this was, I thought the visuals were pretty good. What about you, Bill?
Yeah, for sure.
I gave it a 4 on my end, and I agree with you. The sprite work is fantastic, but that's, again, emblematic of all the Mega Man X games. The sprite work is always beautiful on there. The bosses, for the most part, are pretty cool visually. There's not really a ton of clunkers in there. The only issue I have with the visuals is I find the backgrounds very distracting. Where the action was almost hard to see. A perfect example of that is that heinous Volkraken speeder stage. You can barely see those exploding barrels against the reddish hues of the background. So you don't know they're there until you crash into them. You're like, oh, that's the thing I need to shoot. That happens a number of times.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Actually, if I can just interrupt for 1 second, there's a point where you have to like jump up, and it's a tiny, tiny jump during like where you have to shoot through the barrels. And I kept hitting that the whole time. I'm like, what am I getting stuck on? You could
Mhm.
barely tell that the bottom of like the platform that you're on needed like you just needed to jump up just a smidge. Like it's very, very annoying. So I definitely agree with what you're saying with the backgrounds there. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Bill.
No, that's fine. And also the other side of it too is that's not the only place that happens. There's that. I'm not sure if you guys got to the level where it has the gravity, where you can jump into the arrows and it flips the gravity around. So it kind of
Mm-mm.
up it comes down, down it comes up. That is a very distracting level. The also I noticed that the in this time around that the enemy variety was not quite there, as opposed to different other Mega Man games. I thought they recycled a lot of the same enemies over and over again. X4 does that a lot too, which was surprising. X1 doesn't. X1 I think has a lot more variety if I remember correctly. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just felt like there was a lot of recycled sprites for the enemies. But very distracting, especially when you get towards the end, like the end bosses and end levels. There's all sorts of just lights and things going on in the background and virus
Yeah.
waves, and it's just overwhelming. It's just, yeah, it's too much. So I think they overdid it for X5, but I do agree. I think that for the most part, the game is pretty beautiful. So I landed on a solid 4.
Okay, totally fair. Let's move over to sound. Yaiser, you want to kick it off with sound?
Ooh, yeah, sure. I will. Dude, I thought the soundtrack was fucking awesome to this game.
Agreed.
Even like the main menu music, dude, it sounded fucking metal metal as fuck. It kind of
Yeah.
did, right?
Yeah.
Even sounded like a guitar and like some heavy drums, but like, dude, I loved it, man. I loved the sound. I don't know if it. I don't know. I don't know if I should go there. I'll give it a 4. I'm going 4.5.
Okay.
Almost worthy of a 5.
I was very close to the 5 as well. I actually
Right.
landed on a 4.75.
Nice.
I was very close to the 5. I loved the music in this game. It was one of the things that kept me playing, honestly. Wanting to see like different themes and different levels and stuff like that. So yeah, I thought the music was amazing. And I'm not a huge Mega Man guy. I do know some of the themes, like Mega Man 3 has a very good theme. Mega Man 2 obviously has a couple really good ones. I've heard some from Mega Man X that sound great. As far as like, I haven't listened to any for like front to back, but man, every single one I heard was amazing. So and then I've heard a lot of people saying that this is one of the better Mega Man soundtracks of any of the games in the series, whether that be Mega Man X, whatever. So yeah, landing on a 4.75. I thought it was amazing. I absolutely loved it. Bill?
Yeah, I mean, you guys basically said it. I've landed on a 4.5. Mega Man games always have great music. They always do. But people are correct. The Mega Man 5 soundtrack in particular is really, really fantastic. But all the games have like incredible sounds. So 4.5 for all the reasons you stated. I also factored in sound effects though. And the reason I don't bump it to a 5 is because it's the same sound effects they've been using for 4 games, which are fine. They're just workmanlike. The explosions sound fine. The weapons have a bit of punch, but not too much. Everything else, as far as the jump sounds, all that works fine, and they really hasn't iterated much over the series. So if they had improved that slightly, maybe done something better with it with the different iterations, that might have pushed it closer to a 5. Since they really didn't, it's just the same old, which is not a bad thing. It's good. It's still good. I couldn't give it more than a 4 or 5, but the soundtrack is fantastic. I mean, it's Mega Man. Mega Man music is awesome.
So
Almost great.
I'm glad you brought up the sound effects, because there was actually a sound effect that did annoy me quite a bit, which is why I didn't give it the 5. And it was just the menu, or like the chat, the font, whatever, the text boxes as you're trying to get through them. I couldn't stand all the beeping. That drove me absolutely crazy. Other than that, I mean, I thought it was like honestly as good as it could get. Like I was never like this needs improvement. You know what I mean? So I felt like it was really good. I mean, Bill, as somebody who's a little bit more experienced in the Mega Man franchise, would you say that this does hold up as like one of the better Mega Man, like I guess like soundtracks?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's up. I mean, I'm trying to think of all the games. I mean, it's been a while since I've run through all of them, but it's definitely up there. I mean, it's probably top 3 or 4 of the entire. And I've played all the Mega Man original classic games, and I've played up to 5 on the X series. So, I
Nice.
mean, it would probably be like 3 or 4 just off the top of my head. I have to listen to them, but it's great. It's great. It's a baseline quality, and it's definitely just awesome.
Do you have a favorite that you could think of?
Man, I have such a heart for Mega Man 2. That could be nostalgia. The Mega Man X soundtrack is fantastic. X2's is really good too. I don't remember X4. But the interesting thing about Mega Man soundtracks too is it drives action, right? That's what the job of the music is to do. It drives action, which is why they're all really, for the most part, high energy themes, even like water stages, which I don't think there's many water stages in this game. There's a number of water stages in the other games. Even those themes are still moving action forward. And that's what the soundtrack always does in Mega Man. It's a propellant, and it's always good. So yeah, I think if I had to pick a favorite off the top of my head without listening to it, probably 2. I just adore that soundtrack so much. It's so iconic.
Awesome.
And the original X is great as well. And X2 I thought was very good. So
very cool. All right, let's move on to Aged. And Bill, do you want to kick it off for Aged?
Yeah, I mean, I put this as a 4. I think this is a game that probably plays as well as it did before. You know, this is the symptom of it's a side-scrolling Mega Man game. That's the formula is timeless. The reason it's not higher is because again, you have all of these tacked-on systems that don't make any sense, that no one explains to you, and that stuff I don't think is aged very well. Visually, I think it aged great. You know, obviously all the cutscenes are anime, stills, so that's fine. There's not much motion in there, but it still works to tell the story. I think it's age fine. I think it's a 4 as far as age goes. Yeah.
All right, Yaiser, what about you?
I don't want to give it a 4, but it's close. I'm gonna 3.9. Can I give it a 3.9?
You can do whatever you want.
I'm gonna give it a 3.9.
Fantasy world you live
in. Because the gameplay and this, all of it ages very well, except for the fucking text boxes.
Yeah,
it made it feel, it was annoying, first of all, and it's like it feels like an old, like archaic type of way of telling me the story, especially when you can't even finish the sentence in one box. So you have to put one word at the beginning of the next box to finish the last sentence.
How it's like hard it is to read.
Yeah, I know. Come on, man. I'm trying to read fast, but I don't know. You're just cutting sentences off and starting them a minute later. No, that's the only really thing that annoyed me, and I think that really aged it. And I don't think it got all the way to a 4 for me. But other than that, like the gameplay, and obviously it looks great, it sounds great, but I really feel like that the text boxes really just annoyed the shit out of me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm there with you with the text boxes. I think that is super annoying. I think the story in itself feels a little aged, just in the sense that there's not like voice acting or anything like that. It's literally just text box with the beepy sound. That felt old to me.
Yeah.
The portions of the gameplay felt old, and I think it really just because a lot of games now do a very good job of hand holding, right? for either children or people that don't have enough time to. Right. There's a game where you can figure it out. It's going to take you 60 hours, but you can just figure it out. For example, like Breath of the Wild, right? Like there's a lot to that game, but they do a very good job of explaining all the little like intricacies of, I can't say that word, all the little details, I guess, of that game, like when it comes to like the cooking and everything, right? So I think, I don't know, I landed on a 3 for Age because I thought the controls felt pretty solid. Again, first Mega Man entry, so Bill says that Mega Man X feels better, which is honestly really awesome to hear because I can't wait to go play Mega Man X.
we should play that.
But the visuals, the sound, I think it all holds up really, really well. My big issue was just I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing, or like I mean, obviously left to right, kill the things in front of me. that part is self-explanatory. Get to the boss, kill the boss.
Mhm.
But I just felt like it could have done a better job of saying like, oh, here are your special powers. Here's how to use them. Your suit, whatever. Here's the difference between 0 and X, and what happens if you pick 0 at the beginning of the game, or what happens if you pick X at the beginning of the game. This is all just trial and error stuff.
Mhm.
And I think that is just like an old timey game mechanic. I think just the trial and error aspect of it is old. So that's why I landed on a 3. But overall, I didn't hate the game at all. I just found that there were certain parts of it that made me wish I liked it more. I guess.
That's fair.
As far as total scores go, I came in at the lowest at a 3.55. Yaiser came in second at a 3.78, and Bill was the highest on the game at a 3.9.
Interesting. Yeah, I would have.
Yeah.
If you'd asked me what my score would have been, just like I would probably put like a 3.7. So just that skews high. It's interesting that it was that high. But
It's the music.
it's Mega Man. It's awesome.
Yeah,
It's Mega Man. Mega Man's fun. It's just fun.
yeah. This being my first Mega Man experience, I think a lot of people, I mean, you said it, Bill, that this is not the one to start off with, you know what I mean, by any means. So that actually gives me a lot of hope for like what the Mega Man franchise can offer me, because this made me feel lost and confused and wishing I was playing something else at certain times. But I will say that I did have fun playing the game at its core, which was really just like a side-scrolling action game, and I did have fun with the boss battles and the actual levels and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
I do think that there's definitely a lot of positives about this game for sure. I just maybe I should go back and play the original one first.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Just and as far as the order goes, because you both commented how like I didn't know which one to start with. It really doesn't matter too much if you don't mind a little bit of friction.
Mhm.
There is a suggested order, but it's not required. And honestly, I say when you play a Mega Man X game, there's no shame in going online and seeing what the suggested order is, because it is very satisfying to take large chunks of health out of a robot master with the weapon that they're weak to. It is really satisfying. So I if you want to play it traditionally, that's fine. When Mike played Mega Man X and X2, he didn't use any weapons. He just used his X-Buster for everything, because that's just how he rolls in life. And I was like, why would you do that? That's insane. But he's like, I didn't want to use it. But it doesn't matter too much. You know, it does
Right.
make your life a little easier if you know the order. And it's very satisfying using the correct weapon against the correct boss, because it just feels good to watch that health chunk down and just kind of take care of it pretty easy. But
Right.
you don't have to. You can just roll with it and see how it goes. It's up to you.
Well, I rolled with it, but inadvertently. I didn't mean to. I just didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, I didn't look it up either. I just kind of went with it this time as well. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So quickly now, this game was suggested to us by one of our patrons, and one of our patrons, the patron that suggested it actually is DMC. You guys all know him. He he does he comes in and he's on the show every season, and he also does a DMC drop in with us, and he's going to do that for his own Patreon game right now. So take it away, DMC.
Nice.
Mega Man X5 was my introduction into the X series. I was young with about $10 to my name, browsing the grocery store's game aisle, and saw X5 sitting there for the same price. For some reason, I was drawn to it and decided to give it a go. And what's funny is, for the longest time, I thought I actually beat this game, but in revisiting it for Reliving Retro, I realized I didn't, so what better time to take a look at it again than now? Mega Man X5 was released for the PlayStation back in November of 2000, which is after the PlayStation 2 was made available in the States. It was originally intended to be the conclusion of the X series of Mega Man games, and the storyline is definitely written to do so. At the beginning of the game, you're given the choice of either Mega Man X or Zero, and are thrust right into the action. Well, you would be if Alia didn't talk so dang much. For some reason, Capcom decided to not only have Alia talk about almost everything, but also only allow about 6 to 8 words per text box. It's a minor gripe, but holy cow is it frustrating off the bat, and it will play for each character on a stage if you decide to explore some more later on. But anyway, the game begins with X or Zero running through a destroyed city in pursuit of Sigma, because they're always the big bad, aren't they? You meet up with your team and eventually damage from battling Sigma, and then it's your turn to finish them off. Doing so will trigger the events that sets the stage for the main game's plot. In true Mega Man fashion, you are then introduced to 4 Robot Masters, or Reploids, or Mavericks. It depends on the boss as to what they are when you face them, and whew, they'll make sure to tell you. It is a little interesting if you're into Mega Man lore, but otherwise it may just seem a little long-winded. The goal of the story is to acquire parts to beef up a massive cannon to destroy a space colony that's on a collision course with Earth. Afterwards, you're going to also try and build up a spaceship to destroy it further if the cannon wasn't successful. All of this also must be completed in 16 hours of game time, which is really about 14 mission selects and stage exits. There are 2 encounters that will take an hour away each time and can't be skipped, so that means if you want to gather all 8 parts before the collision, you must get them within 14 stage attempts. What Mega Man X5 does with the story here is kind of neat in that it gives the player the choice to completely skip the 8 Robot Masters and just fire the cannon and launch the ship immediately. However, the success rate is incredibly low and almost guarantees that you will get the worst ending. However, with chance being involved in these decisions, even if you build both parts up as much as possible, you may still fail in destroying the colony. If you are savvy with your saves though, you can just re-roll and try again for better results. As far as the gameplay goes, it's Mega Man X. You're going to be running, jumping, shooting, exploring, charging, blasting, slashing, and ducking? For the first time in the X series, you can duck, and it's kind of cool, but it does get removed by X7 and X8. The stages have a decent amount of variety with an underwater scrolling stage and a rather unforgiving ride chaser sequence. No, seriously, if you don't pay attention the second it fades, you will die. For instance, like here.
I guess not.
However, some stage gimmicks really just exist to slow the game down and pad out time. Waiting for the lava flow may seem exciting the first time, but after a few cheap deaths, it's pretty boring. These switches are also clearly time pads and aren't nearly as satisfying as blowing up enemies. The boss fights follow the same formula as all games before. Get their weakness, use it against them, and easily win with minimal effort. But without a guide or previous knowledge of the game, learning this order could add some tension to the game as your hours dwindle if you don't have the right weapon to handle them easily. I did find that you could work through most bosses with the Mega Buster if you are patient and learn their attack pattern, which is kind of forgiving in that instance. That's the thing with this Mega Man entry. It's not exactly hard, but it provides a decent and satisfying challenge, at least until the final phase. But I'm okay with the final section being the hardest. You're supposed to use everything that you've learned and acquired in the game at that point. And by acquire, I don't just mean boss weapons. There's up to 5 different armors that Mega Man can have, and Zero can also have an ultimate upgrade. As long as you selected X at the beginning of the game, you will start with both standard and 4th armor X, otherwise selecting Zero will remove the 4th armor from use. The soundtrack is absolutely outstanding, and you won't tire of hearing any of the songs when you do decide to explore. This may be part of the reason why the game stuck with me and worked so well as my first entry. The OST is just that good. I'm glad this one's on Spotify because I'll pop it on while I'm working or driving. Also, the sounds for the weapons and the damage you're dealing fits for the game, and all the jumps and all that fit too. Visually, the game isn't exactly groundbreaking. It's using a lot of inspiration from Mega Man X4, and it works. It's fine. It's not mind-blowing. It's sprites in 2D on the PlayStation, and honestly, I'm glad they did it because at the time, 2D wasn't really a thing happening on the system. The cutscenes are pretty disappointing though, with them being static slideshows and no voiceovers or anything, just the dinging sound they chose for the text with music playing throughout. I know X4 isn't loved for its voice acting, but by 2000, acting in games was getting better than those made in the mid-90s. It's weird not having fully animated cutscenes where Mega Man 8 and X4 had them, so maybe it was a budget cut or something, but definitely a step backwards. I've said for years that Mega Man X5 is one of my favorite games to play in the series, and a great jumping off point for those who may be interested in getting into Mega Man. After really sitting down and playing it again for the first time in about 10 to 15 years, I still stand by that. The story may be kind of a take it or leave it, where it could be appreciated for the attempt at something fresh in the series with the time limit, but overall it doesn't matter in the core series as X6 was plopped out just barely 1 year later, retconning the whole thing. However, the core game is a lot of fun and it does get pretty challenging. It's not overly difficult for newcomers, and it has arguably the best soundtrack in the X series in my opinion. The visuals work well enough to keep your eyes entertained, so get out there Maverick Hunter. Commanders X and Zero need your help. Thank you again, Reliving Retro, for having me on. My name is DMCPCRT. You can find me at the same handle on Twitch, Twitter, and TikTok, producing content pretty frequently and streaming Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Thanks again, and cheers.
All right, thank you very much, DMC, and thank you for making me super frustrated playing Mega Man X all week. Because
Well, he beat it with both guys, right, all the way through, didn't he?
I think so. I know for sure he beat it with X, and then he said he was going to go through and try to beat it with Zero. He may have mentioned that in the video I just watched, but
I popped in at the end of his stream where he was playing through with Zero and the final boss.
Yeah, so he had to have. Yeah. I think I missed that part, but more power to him. I couldn't do it It's rough. It's
Props.
rough out there. Yeah. All right. Real quick, Bill, would you recommend that somebody relives this game if they had never played any Mega Man game before? Are you like, hey, you should definitely try out Mega Man X5?
No, not if you've never played a Mega Man game. There's 4 more before it that are miles better. I don't mean miles, but that are much better. Start with 1 and then just go sequentially and then stop at 4. I mean, if you want, I would say if you want to relive this game, the first 4 are required playing before it. There's no point jumping into X5 because when there's 4 better games before it. So
yeah. Okay. Different question then. If somebody had only played Mega Man X, hadn't played 2, 3, or 4, would you still recommend the game to them or no?
No, I would say play 2.
Same answer. Okay.
Same answer. No, play 2. It's great. 3's very good and 4 is fantastic. Play those.
All right. Totally fair. What about you, Yaiser?
I can't argue with Bill though, can I?
You could. You could argue.
I know. I don't think I will. Yeah, play the better ones apparently, because this is frustrating as hell.
Yeah. I'm gonna agree just because I didn't have as much fun as I would have liked to have while playing this game. I can definitely see where fun can be had. I just didn't have it all by myself. You know what I mean? Like, I think for sure. After talking to Bill and after doing the show, I think I'm very excited to go back and play Mega Man X at some point, or even just the original on the NES. Like maybe try out the original Mega Man, Mega Man 2, Mega Man 3. Give those ones a shot. But I do think that Mega Man X, I'm very excited to try out. So
yeah. If I may make a suggestion, if you're gonna do that, don't play the first Mega Man. Don't play Mega Man 1. It's so hard. You think this is hard? It's ridiculous. It's the bones. Mega Man 2 is fantastic. I think it's a good starting point. 3 is a good starting point too, honestly. I think 3 is slightly easier than 2. 3 might be a good starter for the NES ones, I think. I like 3 a lot. And but for Mega Man in general, start with X because it's fantastic.
Yeah, I've heard great things about Mega Man X.
Let's do that.
So, maybe we'll boost that one up and maybe get to it next season or something, because it would be fun. It would be fun to play that one, relatively soon after playing Mega Man X5, so we can kind of compare. All right, but this is the time of the show where we randomly select what we're playing next week. It's actually not next week because we're playing an RPG, so we will be playing it for the next 2 weeks, and we will have our season 5 ranked show in between. So I'm definitely looking forward to that too, because I have no idea what my number 1 is going to be. This has been a really weird season.
Very strange season.
Very strange season where we played 4 PS1 games. I don't know how that happened, but a third of the games we played were PS1 games, and very interesting stuff here. So, all right, let's hit that randomizer if you guys are ready.
Yeah, spin it.
Let's do it.
All right. So we have a role-playing game, obviously, developed and published by Square, released in August of 1995 for the Super Nintendo.
August 95.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Chrono. Is it Chrono Trigger?
It is Chrono Trigger. Yes, sir. Now this is one of the games that is the reason why we started the podcast to begin with. Yaiser had asked me if I'd ever played Chrono Trigger, said it was one of his favorite games of all time. I said I've never played it. Have you ever played Earthbound? And he said, nope, never played it. I said, we have to make each other play those games. And thus we started the show. It only took us a little over a year to get to one of them. So that's cool. You'd think we would have started with that, but no, we felt like that wouldn't have been fair.
It's tough with these RPGs, man. But
yeah, it's tough. You don't want to play one for only a week. You don't really get to, digest it. So so we're doing this. We're doing Chrono Trigger this week.
Spoiler alert.
For the next
I have a head start.
You've been playing it, huh? We're going to be joined by You Can Beat Video Games. He has a YouTube channel, so check out that YouTube channel. You Can Beat Video Games. to discuss Chrono Trigger. It's going to be a lot of fun. I haven't played it yet, to be fair. I have 2 weeks now to try and grind through Chrono Trigger. I think I could do it. You know what I'm saying? I think I can do it. All right. Bill.
I hope so, but we'll see.
Well, I have to, right? Because if I don't beat Chrono Trigger, then I can't expect you to definitely like get through and beat Earthbound. I think you
better get going, dude.
I think you out of spite would just be like, I'm not going to beat Earthbound because you didn't beat Chrono Trigger.
Well, to be fair, I've never beat it either, but I'm pretty close. So
okay, that's cool. All right, Bill, can you you want to add something to our retro recommendation list here?
I do. And it's funny, as we were talking, I picked one ahead of time and I'm like, ooh, should we Mega Man X you should play. I don't want you to wait on that, and add it to the pile. And and Final Fantasy IV, I'm playing it, but I have a game that I don't know if you've done it yet. If you have, then I can think of something else. It's an N64 game.
Okay.
First person shooter. And it involves dinosaurs.
Turok.
Oh yes. We're talking about Turok.
Yep.
I want to add Turok the dinosaur. You have done Turok.
Yep, we did that one. Yep.
It was the first one?
We did the first one.
With the first one.
So we didn't play the second one. All right, so let's do Turok 2 then.
Turok 2, Seeds of Evil. Turok 2. Right?
Is it better?
Seeds of Evil. I like it a lot. I have a lot of history with Turok 2 and Turok 1 and 3 actually. We had that third one too. I like it fine. I think they're silly, goofy games and they're fun. Actually you can get them remastered on Steam. Yep. For relatively cheap. I've rolled through them, not all the way through, but it was still fun to shoot dinosaurs in the head with bow and arrows.
Yeah.
Horizon Zero Dawn before Zero Dawn, I
there
guess.
You go. Before the dinosaurs were robots.
Yeah, so let's do Turok 2 then. I think Turok 2 that'll be cool since you've done Turok. You might be able to compare it a little bit. Kind of catch lineage. It's a worthwhile play, I think. I think it's fun.
All right, so we're adding Turok 2, Seeds of Evil for the N64 to our retro recommendation list. Thank you very much, Bill, for coming on. I really appreciate it. And everybody go check out A Gamer Looks at 40 on any platform. I think you can get a podcast.
All of them. Yeah.
I was recently on the Mario Paint episode. So if you want to check out the Mario Paint episode, I have a little segment on there. Thank you again for having me on there. It was a lot of fun.
Of course.
And so one last time, Patreon, check it out. $2 a month. You can add your game to the Patreon list. It's much shorter than our Retro Master list. And go check out Bill wherever you can find him. Do you want to tell everybody one last time where they can find you?
Yeah. Yep. The show is entitled A Gamer Looks at 40. You can find the main hub of things is A Gamer Looks at 40 on Twitter. So A Gamer Looks at 40 on Twitter. And there's a link tree in the bio where you can access all the different things that other podcast has. And check out the show. And on Rigney, you will be on the upcoming Earthbound series.
Yes, sir.
There is going to be. As of this recording, I have 6 hours worth of audio on Earthbound. Because people, when they talk about Earthbound, they talk about it a lot.
Talk about Earthbound.
They love their Earthbound. Like there's no 5-minute, 10-minute conversations. Every single one was a 30-minute conversation minimum.
Yeah.
So this will be a really wild one to put together. It'll probably like 3 episodes worth of Earthbound. Let's be Earthbound.
Oh, very cool.
When it comes
I'm very
out.
excited. I'm very excited to listen.
Yeah,
to that.
there's a lot of cool stories about Earthbound. And
I
feel like
I was gonna say something about that, but I didn't know if like you would put that out into the interwebs.
Yeah, it's out there in the world. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
It's out there now. Cool. So coming soon.
Very cool. Yeah. Very excited for that. So like I said, guys, go check out A Gamer Looks at 40 and make sure to check us out next week as we recap every game that we played in season 5 and we rank it. And if you've played any of these games, we want to see your list in the comments below.
Maybe, definitely.
Yeah, maybe put your top 12 or even just top 5 of the games that you've played or whatever, because we love seeing those kinds of things in the comments. And, try to join us. We're playing Chrono Trigger for the next 2 weeks. If you haven't played it yet, now's the time. If you have played it, let us know what you thought of it.
I can't wait to get back to it, honestly.
So good.
I'm so close.
Good. Yeah. All right, guys. Take care. See you next week.
Peace.